Okay, so two things that I will talk about today is one is how I learn. And I think how a lot of people may be very much geniuses in how they learn too, but perhaps, or I know, the situation is the learning institutions are not embracing this kind of learning step. They're embracing a different kind of learning step, but ultimately that is what crashes the system. So I wanted to just tip my toe into Leetcode. And every time I go to Leetcode, I've gone to Leetcode at very different stages of learning about computer science. And every time I don't like it. And now I have enough talent, enough skills, enough problem solving thing to go in and really look at why I didn't like it. Because most of the time, I may not be able to understand why I didn't like something, but now I know why I don't like something. So one of the things Leetcode does not do, it does not tell you why you're using the method that you're using. So let's look at binary search. Why are you using it? Well, there's issues with the computer. Why is it so easy for you to visually see the shortest path, but the computer does not know how to do that? There is a reason. Okay? Um, Whenever you ask ChatGPT about it, ChatGPT will go into a long discussion about matrix math, about finding the shortest path, really repeating the same things that you see here, and will work a problem. But it will not tell you how matrix math differs from the matrix math used as a human to maybe the way matrix math is used as software, if so, and how AI uses matrix math. Even though it mentions that AI utilizes this kind of method. Now, it doesn't specifically say matrix mathematics, it uses the BFS, which is what I asked it about. Now, this is free version. I looked at also the other AI models that people recommend, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Eventually, I just asked for some papers so I can just look back at the sources. I don't know if this paper is really giving me what it is that I want if I'm trying to learn. I'm going to go ahead and say it's not. The whole point is to have a learning tool that will help you break down this math. This is also a later paper in later years, so it's really not explaining how this methods work. It's not, and when I say beginner friendly, I literally mean trying to get people to understand the tools. I think a lot of people are passing interviews, they're getting positions, and they have no idea why they're using something. Okay? So this is used in a lot of different ways. What are some examples? And I want it from an overview to highly technical. And that is what's missing because it's probably just running off of blogs or vague papers and not breaking it down. Now, they can change this by hiring teachers to go in and I would say professors, but I think teachers will probably have a better chance. Professors, depending on their psychology, by the time you get to a professor stage, you have gone through some initiations of degrees, and dealing with trying to get a degree changes your brain and how you think about something. Some people are just knee deep into something and they need to get a position or a job. But it doesn't mean that they necessarily want to teach. And in order to really be able to explain this, you have to love teaching people. And most people, I will honestly say, they don't have a good understanding of communicating to people, let alone teaching someone something. So anyway, this is what I mean. I hope you guys can get some sort of better understanding of something. Always ask when it comes to computer science, why you're using it, what it solves for. I have to ask this 100 million times. Unfortunately, in real life, I had to deal with this. I took a computer science course, a 3-level computer science course when I was finishing my social science degree, and it was in AI. And somehow it didn't require a prerequisite. I don't know how I found that. Because at first they were like, there's nothing here. We can't put you in any classes because they all require prerequisites. Somehow I got into a class that didn't require prerequisites. So yeah. And there are people that were pursuing a computer science degree that failed the class. Then the person that's supposed to be helping the teacher, which is professor, was pursuing a master's degree, could not answer questions. It blew my mind. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I was like, I had to get to the point where I said, okay, why I have to talk to a professor? Because I've talked to you and I talked to somebody else, and nobody knows about some basic questions that I have to ask. And at first, it's that disbelief because how do I know to even know to ask these questions? But anyway, I find it very hard that if people are solving for actual setting people up to actually succeed in something versus just giving answers or working a simple problem. I think that's also what's affecting reading and reading comprehension is that whenever you're in a cycle like a university or you're in school, especially if you're a high achiever and you're aiming to be in a high level college, you are really running through cycles of not really learning something, but you're just trying to pass the class and have enough memorization. Because most of your no offense, most doctors, most people in high positions that pass these tests, they're really great test takers. But when it's time to actually apply the stuff, it's a losing game. I think surgeons are a little bit different because you do have to have that hands on, but like understanding and solving problems is not something that I see a lot. I see a lot of memorization and knowing this happens if this happens. Anything outside of the structures like the standard, I want to say standard order, but standard model for physics. Outside of that, they don't understand. Like, there is no way of applying anything outside of the standard model. They may hint at some other stuff or maybe mention some other people, but if it doesn't reside in something that they have already checked and has built up, sort of like, oh, I'm not going to get into that. They don't understand it. So, whatever you see is their vision of their model. So, basically, it's the difference between somebody having a 1990s not Miramax, but 1990s film camera versus a camcorder. That camcorder from let's say the early 90s is going to crush all the color. You're not going to be able to see anything. If there's not a lot of light, you're not going to be able to see it. That is what that you have to envision that as like cameras. They can only see certain things, and that is it. They have no way of processing anything, and if it lies outside of that, they have to get permission, or there has to be an institution that gives them permission to use something else. So anytime you see a push for something, like a new tool that's supposed to be assisting and helping, it usually is coming from a higher source because they do not do anything different, and it's a scientific paradigm is what they call it. There is a actual study of this, of how the system of science, Western science, works in order to accept new ideas. It usually has to go through a particular flow. Even have a peer to peer, but if all your peers come from the same point of view, you're eventually going to get the same thing. Hence why you see the same sort of answers. I mean, this was the ChatGPT one that's free, was very similar to what I got from Gemini, which is not free. So anyway, I just wanted to say that, and I hope you guys are having fun, and taking your time, and know that education should always benefit you into making money, but also being well read and sort of understanding how the world works and why these tools exist are also very important. That's all I have to say, and hope you guys have a great day. Bye.